hidden superpower for people with dyspraxia. So the first thing is that it can help getting organized. So getting organized without the overwhelm, which is, really valuable, because people with dyspraxia often have a love-hate relationship with planning, which means that planning can be just exceptionally difficult. You want to stay on top of things. However, calendars, to-do lists, and time management apps can very quickly turn into absolute chaos. But journaling, however, what is it? Well, it's a no-pressure space. It can be a brain dump, a weekly planner, or a list of 3 things you want to do today. In this sense, journaling has no rules and it has no expectations. Let's repeat that. Journaling has no rules and it has no expectations. Can journaling really help with dyspraxia? Journaling with dyspraxia? Are you kidding me? Now, that's what someone said to me when I presented the idea. And honestly, I totally get it. But when you think of dyspraxia, which is also known as developmental coordination disorder, also known as DCD, probably the last thing that comes to your mind is handwriting, daily routines, or perhaps the kind of reflective thinking that journaling often requires. So let's progress this further, because people with dyspraxia, they can struggle, right? They can struggle with motor skills, they can struggle with organization, they can struggle with memory, and even emotional regulation. So adding something like journaling, it might seem like, just one more challenge in a already complicated day or an already complicated world. It doesn't seem ideal. Totally get it. But here's the twist, and there is a twist. Journaling might actually help because of these challenges, or of those challenges, or in spite of it, it may help with empowerment. Let's break it down. Let's talk about it. And first, assuming you're new here, let's ask that question: what is dyspraxia? Let's be very brief in this. So dyspraxia, it affects the way the brain processes movement and coordination. That's 2 elements, movement and coordination. But it's not just about tripping over shoelaces or having messy handwriting, although those things are super common. Primarily, or additionally, it can also impact other things. What are those other things? Well, it can impact planning, organizing thoughts, managing time, and even processing emotions. Imagine this. Imagine trying to catch 10 balls at once, blindfolded. Imagine that. There's 10 balls and you're trying to catch them and you're blindfolded. And that's what every day can feel like with someone who has this condition known as dyspraxia. And we won't get too much into this, but there's no cure. But there are ways to work with your brain rather than against it. So we want to work with the brain as opposed to against it. And this is where journaling can sneak in. It can sneak in as a surprisingly useful tool. So the obvious question here is journaling. How could that possibly help? Well, think of journaling, or picture journaling, as a personal assistant. And this personal assistant, they never judge, they never interrupt, and they're available 24/7. Sounds perfect, right? When you're juggling executive functioning challenges, what are those challenges? Like remembering appointments, sorting out priorities, or handling emotional stress, things that we can all relate to. Writing things down, what does it do? Well, it gives your brain a chance to breathe. Let's repeat that. It gives your brain a chance to breathe. And that's essential. And here are a few ways that journaling might actually be a hidden superpower. Imagine that. Journaling is a hidden superpower for people with dyspraxia. So the first thing is that it can help getting organized. So getting organized without the overwhelm, which is, really valuable, because people with dyspraxia often have a love-hate relationship with planning, which means that planning can be just exceptionally difficult. You want to stay on top of things. However, calendars, to-do lists, and time management apps can very quickly turn into absolute chaos. But journaling, however, what is it? Well, it's a no-pressure space. It can be a brain dump, a weekly planner, or a list of 3 things you want to do today. In this sense, journaling has no rules and it has no expectations. Let's repeat that. Journaling has no rules and it has no expectations. And some folks find bullet journaling especially helpful since it combines structure with flexibility. In one sense, you can create visual layouts that make sense to you, not some pre-made app interface. And you don't have to be an artist. Boxes and stick figures would work just fine. So the second thing is tracking patterns and triggers. Tracking patterns and triggers. Because journaling can reveal patterns. They can reveal patterns you didn't even know were happening. So this is the whole thing where journaling is helping you with your awareness. For example, maybe you notice after journaling that every Thursday you feel completely burnt out. Or that your coordination, it gets worse when you've skipped breakfast. Because when you jot things down, even short entries over time, think of things like, I felt tired today, I felt exhausted, I spilled the coffee, I forgot my keys, etc. Once you've collected this data, you can then start to collect the dots. And that awareness can help you make small changes that can actually be beneficial. Those small changes, that ability to connect the dots, that can actually work for you. And then the third thing is improving emotional regulations. Now, emotions can feel intense for those with dyspraxia, of course. Neurotypical and neurodiverse people have emotions, but they can perhaps feel more intense, and not being able to process or express them easily, well, that adds a new layer of frustration. And journaling can be like a pressure release valve. Why? How can it be a pressure relief valve? Because it gives you a chance to process the tough days. And importantly, it enables you to vent without judgment and reflect on what made a situation so hard or what made a situation so great. Because think of it like this, even writing for 5 minutes about how something made you feel, right? Just for 5 minutes, this can shift your perspective. And in doing that, what's the outcome? Well, it can lower your stress levels. So it can shift your perspective and lower your stress levels. And the bonus, what is the bonus? Well, research has actually shown that expressive writing can help reduce anxiety and improve mood, especially for neurodivergent individuals. And the fourth thing I want to focus on is celebrating the small wins. Celebrating the small wins. And this is really essential, because in a world where success often means big, massive accomplishments, people with dyspraxia or people that are neurodivergent might overlook their own victories. And journaling, what it can do, it can give you a place to celebrate those small wins, because everyone's journey is different. Everyone's successes are different. So for example, it could be that you made it to work on time all week. And this would be a success, because dyspraxia can affect time. I didn't panic when I dropped something in public. Again, this would be a success, because dyspraxia affects coordination, so you're more likely to drop things. These might seem small to others, but They can be huge to someone who has dyspraxia, and writing them down, it makes them real. It can also help with memory, of course. It reminds you of your progress, even when it doesn't feel obvious. And then the fifth thing to talk about is boosting memory and recall. Because forgetfulness is a frequent flyer in the dyspraxia experience. Forgetfulness is a frequent flyer in the dyspraxia experience. So journaling is a way to externalize your memory, basically taking pressure off your brain by putting things on paper. And it can be oh so simple. It can be as simple as, what did I do today? Or, here's what I need to remember for tomorrow. Two basic things. What did I do today, and what do I need to remember for tomorrow? And here's what worked, and here's what didn't, which is an important question for reflection and growth. And over time, this can help in a variety of ways. It can help improve confidence and reduce the stress of trying to keep everything in your head. And this can be particularly difficult if you're struggling with dyspraxia. And here's another thing. You can journal through video if that's your preferred style. Because when we think of journaling, when I think of journaling, I think of writing on a piece of paper. But what about video? And here's a question. Who says journaling has to be written? Who made up that rule? Because if typing or handwriting isn't your thing, video journaling can be just as powerful. Perhaps it can be more powerful. You can record short clips on your phone, talk to your camera like you're FaceTiming a friend, or even use voice notes if you prefer not to be on camera. The point is this, is that journaling doesn't have to be writing. It doesn't have to be writing. Because the main point is to get your thoughts out and to give your thoughts space. So how you do it, or the process of how you do it, is totally up to you. So it's your decision. And in fact, for many, video journaling might even feel more natural for some people with dyspraxia. And especially if verbal expression comes easier than written communication. So if you have a preference for verbal communication, perhaps videoing might be, it might be more accessible for you. Plus, watching past videos can be a great way to notice growth and spot patterns, just like with written entries. So here's some tips of making journaling, for want of a better word, dyspraxia friendly. If you're thinking, okay, I might try this, I'm going to give it a go. Here are a few tips to make it doable. So the first tip is to go digital if handwriting is tough. And we have apps like Day One or even Google Docs can make journaling feel more accessible. So utilize those resources if you think they'll work. Also use voice or video. Because, like I've said, journaling doesn't have to involve the pen. You don't have to have a relationship with the pen, metaphorically speaking, to journal. And keep it short. One sentence or a 30-second clip, that totally counts. Additionally to this, consider making it fun. The more fun it is, the more likely you are to do it. Stickers, colors, audio effects, whatever keeps you engaged. And also, think of creating a ritual. Tie journaling to an existing habit, like morning tea or your bedroom routine, or your bedtime routine, sorry. So I just want to quickly pivot before we finish here. And I just want to quickly pivot to talk about the book that I have created with some other neurodivergent artists. And that book is called Neurodiverse Voices. Now this book, as stated, is a collaboration. It's a collaboration of other different neurodivergent contributors. And you may be asking, what is the purpose of this book? Well, the purpose of the book was to build a neurodiverse product, but more importantly, is for that product to be built by neurodiverse people. Now, if you're thinking, I'm really intrigued, I want to know more, then there'll be a free sample in either the description box of the video, or I'll also drop the sample in the description box. So let's conclude this video. So can journaling really help people with dyspraxia? And the short answer is yes, not as a magic fix, but as a gentle, flexible support system. It can be like a sidekick for your brain, helping you stay grounded, organized, and emotionally in tune. And please remember, you don't have to do it right. You just have to do it your way. What is doing journaling right anyway? Pen, keyboard, or camera, all of it counts. It's more about what makes you comfortable. That's the important thing. And who knows, a few notes or clips today might lead to a more confident, self-aware, and empowered you tomorrow. So to conclude this, I just wanted to end this with some questions for you to ponder or to aid understanding. So question 1 is, what kind of journaling, written, typed, video, audio, feels most natural and sustainable for you? So think about that question, think about the answer. Question 2, are there specific challenges or patterns in your day-to-day life that journaling could help you track or better understand? Question 3, what would make journaling feel enjoyable instead of like another task? Could it be timing, tools, or even turning it into some type of creative outlook? So really have to take time to consider that. And question 4, have you ever tried journaling before? If so, here's two sides of the coin. What worked, what worked, and also what didn't work. And finally, question 5, what's one small thing you could try journaling about this week to see how it feels? And I really think you should ask yourself these 5 questions to aid understanding and to take action. Now, if you want to see more videos on dyspraxia, click here or click here. And if you want to check out our sample, then check the description box.